This is SoundNotion, the weekly podcast for new music and music news. I'm Patrick Gulo.
I'm Sam Merciers.
And I'm Dave McDonald.
And joining us this week is Lisa Kaplan, the pianist from 8th Blackbird. Lisa, thanks for joining us today.
Yay, thanks for having me, guys.
So 8th Blackbird just won a Grammy Award for Best Small Ensemble Performance for the album Lonely Motel, music from Slide. You guys must be feeling pretty good after that win, huh?
Yeah, that was a nice week for us. We had been nominated once before, but were not able to go to the ceremony, and this time we were actually able to go. And it was actually much more thrilling than I thought it would be. So
I saw that tweet picture. It was pretty cool from the stage.
Yeah, I didn't even realize Tim was doing that actually, but it was pretty exciting. And the funny thing is that during the televised show they give away, I don't know, like 8 awards or something. So obviously in the pre-televised event they give away almost all the rest of them. Right. So that's where everybody is, and it's an intimate environment and just like much more laid back. So it was just really great to see all these people. And Joyce DiDonato, the opera singer, she sang, and that was probably the best part of the day, actually. She was amazing, and it was really great to hear that. People just like sprang to their feet and screamed bravo afterwards. It was really great. Yeah.
Excellent. So we're all wanting to know, did you like, all the big time pop music stars get really expensive bags of stuff for being there? We've heard about the legendary gift bags given out to the talent at these things.
Yeah, you do. And we got no good swag, basically.
Just another way that they're putting down classical music.
Yeah,
but you did get to meet Justin Bieber, right?
Oh, right, yes. That was my dream. Being at the telecast is so surreal because, it's in the Staples Center, which is where the Lakers play, right? So it's like you're in this stadium, and everybody's dressed up in their, crazy gowns. And the only food that you can eat is like the concessions. So everybody's like, walking around with like pretzels and hot dogs and beer, and in their like crazy fancy outfits. And then you go into the Staples Center, and I imagine on TV it looks really great, but while you're in there, it really just looks like the basketball stadium. So it's very funny. There's like this very surreal element. And I don't know. I'm not a huge like pop culture person. I'm really into like all of the indie rock myself. So that's mostly what's never represented at the Grammys. But the people who performed at the telecast, I knew a lot who a lot of them were. But I honestly have never heard Adele before, and she won like 5 Grammys. I had no idea who she was. Anyway.
Yeah, I feel like that sometimes.
Yeah.
I think she has plenty of fans, and she's going to make it just fine without us.
Yeah, absolutely. And she was fine. She sang, and it was pretty, and that was great. But I liked what Bon Iver said for his in his speech. He talked about feeling very conflicted, actually, just even about being there. I think there was I think he was considering not going at all, but he said, I just want to thank all of the non-nominees. And I think that was pretty cool, actually.
Yeah.
Did you go to...
Go ahead.
Was there an after party?
There was an after party, and it was very... that was also strange. So first of all, you've been out, all day. We had been at the place since like noon. So we were all like very hungry by 9 o'clock at night, and there was like huge long lines to like get food and beverages, and I was so my boyfriend was like, okay, I'll go in the drink line. I was like, great, okay, I'll go to the food line. So now I'm getting like 2 huge plates of food. And then there was like nowhere to sit down, no tables to sit at. I mean, there were tables, but they were all occupied. So I just like sat on the floor with my food. That was also very, very strange, but I didn't care. I was just like, I need to eat. I'm so hungry.
So we keep asking you these like really shallow questions about the Grammys, and
Yeah.
I apologize for that, but it's just such a strange thing for us to kind of pair these two ideas of this very mainstream, mainstream culture event of the Grammys and this kind of much smaller side culture of new music.
Oh, right.
It seems
No, totally.
it's just such a funny thing to us. And I was wondering, there was a lot made about the kind of reduction of categories this year and kind of streamlining the number of awards that they gave. And I was wondering what you feel the value of a Grammy, which is such this universally recognized award, to a group like Eighth Blackbird.
Yeah. I think it's what's so strange about it is that it means something, like you said, to people who really know nothing about music.
Right.
So to them, it's like this emblem of, greatness. And, for us, I mean, look, of course, it's a thrill to be honored in that way. And honestly, like, I'm very proud of Lonely Motel as a recording. So, I mean, I definitely stand behind our work. But, at the same time, it also just seems so arbitrary because, there are so many groups who are great and, who aren't even nominated. The whole process to me is very strange. I do think for people, when they hear that, oh, you're a 2-time Grammy Award winner, that to them means a lot. And, that's fine. And that's certainly helpful in terms of just getting our name out there to people who've never heard it. But the whole thing is very strange. And I just really don't even know when. I mean, I guess this was the 54th year of the awards, but it would be interesting to sort of go back in history and see what it was like in the first 10 years of them giving out these things. But definitely now I just feel like it's all about commerciality and popularity, and not even music that I'm even exposed to most of the
Right.
time. So it's very, very odd. And I do feel that what I do is in such a niche market anyway. So yeah, honestly, it's really nice to be acknowledged in that way. But at the same time,
You feel humored a bit?
yeah, I do. And I do just feel like, I don't know, our Matthew, our percussionist, the other day, he texted me and just like random text, he said, how did we end up with 2 Grammys? And I was like, I have no idea. So, yeah.
So,
Like-
do you think are there any awards that are kind of the equivalent of the Grammys that kind of are a little bit more substantial? That I guess awards in and of themselves are pretty insubstantial, but that are more specifically for, I don't know, classical music or new music or anything like that? Is there anything like that?
I don't think so. I mean, if it is, like, I don't know what
I'm just trying to think of if there's any other kind of recognition that you could get.
Oh, I see. Right. Yeah.
I mean, aside from like grants and fellowships and things like that.
Well,
Right,
and that's
yeah.
kind of the way the system works for us,
Yeah.
which I think is better.
Sure.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I think there's things like, the MacArthur, Genius grants that they give out, or, the Guggenheim fellowships, which, are more about creativity, I think, which is nice, like an acknowledgement of somebody's output in terms of, you know, how interesting or creative they've been. But yeah, in terms of awards that are super popular, I don't know that there's anything like the Grammys. Very strange.
I think a lot of the disconnect that sort of maybe new music people feel towards the Grammys has to do with the anachronistic quality of it. It's a tradition that was started when the means of production for music and all other types of media was so limited. It was an awards sort of celebration of the best of the people who could actually had the access to make, there it is, Dave, the access to make the music. And now everybody has access to things needed to make the music, but we're still holding this big celebration for an anointed few. So it just feels strange because of that to me.
Yeah. No, I totally agree. Right. Everybody's able to like produce themselves now, basically, and put out a product that sounds great. So
we don't need centralized celebration anymore.
Right. Right. Yeah, very, very strange. I'm trying to think of the things that were good. Well, let's see. Bruce Springsteen performed at the televised thing, and that was fun to see. Mm-hmm. And this guy, Bruno Mars, was a little bit of inspired by James Brown, and sort of the dancing was great. I really liked all the great dancing that I saw. Well, that was fun.
This is where I feel very conflicted as a composer, because I think of myself as a composer, absolutely, and then you hear Bruno Mars, who is just like a pop hook machine, you know?
Right.
I can't do that.
No.
And it is composition, you know? So I really respect the ability to crank out that good of a hook.
Yeah, that's right. It's definitely a hook.
It's, and there's lots of composers, finger quote composers, who can't do that. So, the songwriting in the pop music context, I think, is a skill that I don't have. So while people tend to be sort of jaded about it, I try to maintain some perspective, realizing no matter what I think, I couldn't do it.
Yeah, well, that's nice. That's good. It's good to maintain perspective.
Speaking of topics that we need a little perspective on this week in new music.
Are we ready to move on yet?
Aren't we?
So
I think
tell us what's going on with 8th Blackbird now.
Oh,
now that
okay.
you have your Grammys in hand.
Yes, now that we have them.
I'm sure you just carry them with you all the time.
Right, yeah. I don't even actually. People ask me, they're like, "Oh, where do you keep your Grammy?" And I keep it in my cupboard, actually, in my pantry.
That's how you like to start your day, when you get your bowl of cereal, right?
Right, but what's actually funny, if somebody's over or something who, maybe hasn't been here before, and they go over, and I'm like, "Oh, can you get olive oil or whatever?" And they open the cabinet, and they're like, "What is that?"
Pepper grinder.
Yeah, they're like, "Is that fake?" I'm like, "No, it's not fake. It's real." Let's see, but no, what's going on with us is great. We just announced a residency that we're going to be doing at the Curtis Institute for 3 years. That was funded by the Mellon Foundation. That we're really, really excited about. We've had a relationship with Curtis and gone there a few times in the past, but we were asked to submit a proposal to the Mellon Foundation, and we're very excited to have been awarded the residency. So that will start in the fall, and will consist of a lot of just side by side, coaching, playing with the students, sort of talking to them about, becoming the best, like, overall musicians that they can become, curating programs in interesting ways, understanding the business and entrepreneurship part of music as well, and we're really looking forward to it. Obviously, because the level of the talent there is so incredibly high. So those kids can basically do anything.
Right.
Right. And the fulfillment you get from working with students like that is really fantastic. So we're really excited about that. Yeah.
So you mentioned that you're going to be talking to them about entrepreneurism in music, and that's a really interesting topic that I think find ourselves discussing from time to time on the show. Is that something that you felt that you were prepared for when you were in school?
No, not really. I think when I was in grad school, I maybe took like one class on that. Now I do think it's much more prominent in music schools and conservatories. But when I was a student 15 years ago, it was still very up and coming, I feel like. And we didn't really know what we were doing in Eighth Blackbird when we started. But the way we evolved, I mean, I think we quickly learned that it was very important, not just how well we prepared the music and, how hard we worked, but also how we were, what our image was and how we presented ourselves. I mean, in our first year together, we wanted to apply to a bunch of music festivals. And we could literally play only 3 pieces, like just 3 pieces. But we recorded them at Oberlin, in the concert hall, and we made this great demo. Michael, our clarinetist, had a background in computer science and graphic design, so he made the CDs look really pretty, and the whole package was sexy, and that caught people's eye. And I think we knew that the product was good, that the music was good, but it was also the fact that, we can only play these 3 pieces. So if we get accepted, I don't know what we're going to do. Well, we'll play those 3 pieces a lot. So, but it worked. And I think that, especially, it just seems like especially these kids to me at Curtis, I think partly because it's so small, it's such a small school. There's maybe 130 students or something like that. So these kids are, and often, some of them who come in are 13 or 14 years old or whatever. So they're young. They're still literally kids. And they have been, just practicing their instruments for hours a day for most of their lives. And they come in, and they're on a track to becoming a soloist or getting an orchestral job or whatever it is that they want to do. But they have a very narrow vision of what it means to become a musician. I think when they start, and we're not trying to convert them into playing a lot of contemporary music if they don't want to, not at all. But I mean, the fact is that working musicians will come across having to play new music no matter what, generally. And,
right.
So incorporating that into what they're going to be as an overall musician is definitely part of it. But it really is also about, how you can forge your own career by really taking the right steps to sort of market yourselves in the right way.
That's interesting, and you mentioned kind of being very conscious of the image that you were putting forth with Eighth Blackbird, and I'm wondering if you could comment on how you guys see yourselves in kind of comparison to other music that's being created around you.
Yeah, that's so hard. I mean, it's hard to comment on because it's so hard to step outside of yourself and see yourselves objectively. I mean, I think there's, I think what has maybe emerged with sort of our style, both in person and also, in the way that we're presented in our photos and written materials or whatever, is I think we have a certain accessibility and a friendly sort of whimsical attitude that we try to convey. We've certainly always had a sort of informal approach in terms of our stage presence, just talking to the audience, and, not wanting it to be, not thinking of the whole concert as, okay, we're going to come out and play a piece. Everyone's going to clap. We're going to leave the stage. We're going to come back on. We're going to bow. Everyone's going to clap. We're going to play the next piece. That format, which I find so dull, we're definitely not about that. We stay out on stage. We talk to people. The way in which we talk about the pieces is not, so at the beginning of this piece, listen for the flute playing. It's not technical. It's more, oh, we met this composer at, the Norfolk Contemporary Music Festival, and we thought their music was really cool, and, we decided we'd commission him, and, just more sort of anecdotal. And I don't know, that's sort of how I see ourselves.
When I saw you guys perform at the Miller Theater a few months ago during the Sonic Festival,
yeah,
and I really appreciated the sense of programming on the stage. In that, you like you said, it just wasn't everybody going off the stage, coming back. I mean, the show kept going as soon as one piece ended, and so you kind of got in touch with this whole flow of music that's happening throughout the whole concert. And I really appreciate that.
No, that's great. I mean, that's something we always try and do. It's just sort of nicer to keep the flow going.
Yeah, I think so.
I mean, yeah, I don't like when I go to a concert and it's, it's just so conventional and exiting and entering, and so yeah, we just definitely try and mix it up that way.
And I think that's kind of become the norm for a lot of ensembles. I mean, yeah. It's a very exciting trend. I think that all these people that are creating this music that has the potential to be very off-putting, having very engaging stage presences.
Right, and I think that's a huge part of it. I mean, you think about why do you go to a concert, instead of sit at home and listen to a recording. And I mean, I'll admit that I don't go to a lot of concerts because I'm, in that environment so much of the time. But, you go to a concert because you want to experience the person's stage presence and persona in person. I mean, that's why I go. I actually went to a concert last night. I saw Diamanda Galas perform, and she was like this, I studied her in like my feminist art history class, when I was at Oberlin, and I have never seen her perform, and so I was really excited about going. And I mean, I've never seen anything like it. It was interesting in the fact that she just sat at the piano and sang, but the way that she sings is like nothing you've ever heard before. And you could really tell when she was like in this zone. I mean, it was like she was it was like the audience actually wasn't even there anymore. She was just so in what she was doing, and you could see that and feel that. And
so as a result, you were captivated as well.
Right. And, that's something you can never experience unless you're in the presence of somebody else. And, she also had a strange awkwardness with the audience. I mean, she spoke to the audience, but she wasn't necessarily comfortable doing it. And, that was very strange. But when she had these moments of like just going, just like being in this zone and like singing in a way that I've never, heard any human capable of, that was just the reason I go to a concert. It's really great.
Well,
cool. Well, I think we should maybe move it. Sam, you wanna take us where you were gonna take us earlier?
I was counting because I've been going out of my way to try and not read about this too much this week.
Yeah.
You would have to go pretty far out of your way, I think.
Yeah, so I only know what I read the Alex Ross thing this morning, and I watched your video, which was good, Dave.
It was great. I loved that video.
It was fantastic.
We should make more of those.
Dave, I think you have the comprehensive or the most comprehensive knowledge of those assembled, so take it away.
Actually, a lot of my comprehensive knowledge comes from a really excellent summary that Rob Deemer included in his new music box post about this. But basically, if you have not read any classical music blogs at all over the last week, you might not know that Osvaldo Golijov has been accused of, well, doing something wrong. He wrote a piece commissioned by a group of orchestras a couple of years ago, and it has been played a bunch of times. 35 orchestras were part of this commission. Most of them have already played it over the last little over a year. I think the premiere was October 2010. Boozy lists it as having something like 60 performances, and it was performed just a couple of weeks ago by the Eugene Symphony Orchestra in Eugene, Oregon, and a couple of guys in the audience said, "Well, that sounds a whole lot like this piece that we were just studying in the studio earlier today," and it was
Michael Ward-Bergeman.
Yes, a piece for accordion by a guy named Michael Ward-Bergeman, and sure enough, it's almost exactly the same. As the other guys mentioned, I made a video a couple of days ago putting them side by side with one in the left channel and one in the right channel, and they go at about the same tempo, playing the exact same pitches for a minute and a half.
So Golijov only wanted to use the melody, isn't that true?
Well, so
Like,
here's
that was
the
his
thing.
idea.
In the score and in the program notes, Golijov doesn't mention this other guy at all. And the only time he did was in a couple of interviews about the piece. So, the first thing everyone's shouting is, plagiarism, you stole this guy's music. And it's a little fraught with other things because Golijov is kind of famous and Michael Ward-Bergeman is kind of not. So it's a little maybe exploitative. But I don't know. There's kind of this very fuzzy line between stealing something completely and just borrowing a lot from it. And that's kind of what everyone has been, with the conversation, has been mostly about. Because he does borrow a lot, but he also includes, mostly repetition, but also some kind of transitional material that makes the work a lot longer. The original is about 4 minutes long, and Golijov is 9 or 10 minutes long. So I don't know whether we say this is plagiarism or not. The thing to me that is the main issue is that the orchestra has commissioned this guy to write an original work, and he got a lot of money for it. In Rob Deemer's new music box piece, he says that the 35 orchestras each paid, depending on their means, between $1,500 and $4,000 to commission this work from each of 35 orchestras
For 9 minutes.
for a 9-minute piece. So that's like
Thanks.
more money than I made teaching college courses in the last year to write this one 9-minute piece that is mostly not his.
And
content.
he did a lightweight remix of something else for that.
So to me, the issue is mostly that these people paid for something that they didn't really get. I don't know.
Well, according to the Alex Ross piece, Golijov and the accordion guy, whose name escapes me all of a sudden,
Michael
Ward-Bergeman, came to an understanding about what material would be used and everything.
Right, and that's fine, and I get that, and that's absolutely true. Golijov and Ward-Bergeman have reportedly, or had reportedly before this all came out, came to an agreement about the use of this material, but that's immaterial to me because that's not what the orchestras had asked for from Golijov. Not to mention the fact that the music is terrible.
Oh,
It's really bad. It's really
pulling out
bad.
all the guns right here, aren't you?
I mean, that's the sort of subjective, don't you think?
Right.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know. It's hard for me to comment. Actually, Michael is one of my closest friends, and I know Osvaldo also really well. And I don't think that most people have an understanding of what their relationship is. But, they love each other dearly, and in a sense, Osvaldo has given Michael a career. And that's not to say that Michael feels in debt to Osvaldo, but that they have a very collaborative relationship. And I mean, if Osvaldo had borrowed from some other, he look, in his music has a lot of he uses a lot of indigenous music, folk music, klezmer, and if he'd borrowed something from that instead of from Michael, would people be making such a fuss? Frankly, I think that, people just want to find a reason to beat up on Osvaldo because they're jealous of the success that he's had in the past.
Yeah. No, absolutely.
I've been a fan for quite a while because I was a clarinet geek. And when The Dreams and Prayers of Isaac the Blind with David Krakauer playing the clarinet part with the I mean, come on.
Fantastic music. Yeah. And, Osvaldo is an incredible musical mind also. I mean, I've worked with him where we were creating arrangements of some folk tunes. And he hadn't written anything down, but he came in to the rehearsal room and he was like, okay, marimba, play that A, okay, roll on the F. I want clarinet to play this. It was all completely in his head and he hadn't written it down, but he told everybody what to do. And I was struck. I mean, I just thought it was incredible. He's a very creative person. If the orchestras don't like the piece that they got, that's too bad. But you never know what you're going to get when you could have commissioned someone. He could have used, he could have written something without using any of Michael's material, and they could have not liked it either. You don't know. There's always a risk when you commission somebody. You don't know ever for sure what you're going to get. You hope that you like what you're going to get, but you never know. And so.
No, I get that, and I understand that you might get something you don't like, but they asked for original composition, and I would say that this is an arrangement.
Well, I mean, I think there's certainly a lot of ways you could define what it is, but I would argue that they have, that Osvaldo's work uses a lot of borrowed material, whether it's from folk music or whether it's from somebody who's written something original, and I honestly don't see that much of a difference.
Well, I mean, listening to this thing all the way through several times this week, there's almost nothing in here that's not from this other piece. The only thing he's added is the orchestration. I will say that the orchestration is excellent.
Yeah.
And as you said, he's a brilliant creative mind. But it's taking this 4-minute accordion work and basically orchestrating it for 9 minutes. And I don't know if that's what I would call original composition.
Well, I mean, if everyone is satisfied as far as the commissioners of the piece, I mean, is there a problem?
And that I think is a really interesting question. Is the people that have premiered it and have been totally happy with it so far? How did they react to this publication?
I mean, this is the first time anyone has started talking about this. So
well, no, this is the first time people have started talking about it with this piece. As Lisa said, Golijov is big on kind of
that's what I meant, this piece
borrowing material and pastiche kind of techniques, and so this has come up before, but I think this one is a little bit more literal than some of the other stuff of his that I've heard, and again, this is really kind of link bait-ish writing. All the stuff that's been written
I'd
about
say that
this.
too. It's like it's headlines. It's it makes it moves some waves in the classical music field. So
yeah, I mean, I just think people. I honestly they want a chance to beat up on Osvaldo, and I think that people don't, people have an issue with him being as successful as he's been. And I don't know. I don't like that. I don't like that's a large part of why I think people are beating up on him about it. I think it's petty. I think if you know Osvaldo,
I'm not sure that's.
Do you think it's something that's directly geared or directly at Osvaldo, or is it just people like to, cause trouble?
Yeah, I think it's more that, because when I
don't know. I don't. I actually think it's more. I think it's more geared towards Osvaldo than people think. The things that I've read, some of the things that talk about, and it's a well-known fact that, Osvaldo was supposed to complete, Violin Concerto, and he wasn't able to complete that, and he's not good with deadlines. So it's like all of these facts that they seem to know about him personally. And I find that to be, I don't think it's just about creating a ruckus. Yes, people like to create a ruckus, but I think in this case they're particularly pleased that it's a ruckus about Osvaldo.
I don't know. When I talk to musicians, I always find that everybody really has a lot of respect for him and his music. I don't know if this is something. I don't think I've heard. I mean, I had certainly heard. I know about his music and using other material, but I like you, I have read about the deadline issues, but only this week again.
Yeah.
But that's, I mean, I don't know if that's really even that's not even related to this, and that's, you're absolutely right about that's just kind of piling on for no reason.
It's good that you're on the show, because I mean, like, basically our all we have read about has been this, he's stolen from Michael Ward-Bergeman, and that that's kind of been the whole story. And I'm glad that we have you on here to give us a personal impression that both of these composers and what their relationship is like.
Yeah, no, I mean, I'm sure that whatever the conversation, I'm sure Osvaldo was like, oh, Michael, I love this. Like, he's been a huge mentor, obviously, to Michael, too, and so, I'm sure that he heard that melody and said, oh, Michael, I love that melody. I want to use it for this piece. Is that okay? And Michael was probably like, totally. I mean, look, they've worked on, movie scores together. And, I just think in the way that I know they both work, that the lines of, like, who owns what melody is very blurred. And it's different from how a lot of other composers work. And that's fine. But I don't think that people have an understanding of it. And, so it seems to me to just be unfair.
That's interesting. So do you think it's possible that the two may have worked together on the other piece, and it had originally been published under just Michael Ward-Bergeman's name, and that was part of this as well?
Yeah, I mean, I don't know about the particularities of that piece, in any sense. But what I know about how they work together, they did they did the movie score for this movie called Tetro, and I talked to Michael a lot about what it was like when they were recording the music, and they're both such great musicians that it's not, somebody tries something based on what one person offered, and then, it ends up being a combination of the two of theirs. And, I don't know that that's what happened with this particular piece of Michael's, but it's certainly not without possibility.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah.
In the Alex Ross piece, it says that the two had worked side by side on various projects, including a film score, and that the original, or the finger quote original piece by Bergeman emerged from that film thing, and then it was played under a different name, but arranged by Golijov. And I'm like, well, obviously these guys are, all up in it together. So to me, that based, and also with the fact that he said we came to an understanding about it, I'm like, I think there's a gut reaction that people have when they know that there's something else called that sounds so similar, no matter what the interpersonal particulars are. I think that's their gut reaction. They feel like you've hoodwinked them in some way. You know what I mean?
Right.
I think
sure, right.
And I don't think that they've been hoodwinked. I'm just saying that's what people's sort of knee-jerk reaction is when they hear about this.
Right. Yeah, absolutely. And that makes sense. But like I said, people don't know. I can, without having spoken to Michael yet, about this, I can say that there's no way that he feels like anything was stolen from him in any way.
Well, I think I've already spent more mental energy on this than I care to.
Which is why I tried not to read about it all week, because I knew it was going to be this kind of thing. You never know the details of an interpersonal relationship.
You just get sucked in.
Yeah, well,
talking about this kind of story.
Our field is so boring these days anyway. Nobody's murdering mistresses anymore or any good stuff, so we've got to find something.
Need a little drama.
That's right. That's right.
Right.
Congratulations to Christopher Rouse for being named the new composer in residence for the New York Philharmonic.
That's very exciting.
It is. I like Christopher Rouse.
I'm glad that there are still orchestras that have the budget for composers in residence.
Yeah.
That's great. That's great.
There's this nice little like indie in-your-face camera kind of 1-minute documentary video clip they posted along with it, with Rouse and Alan Gilbert right next to each other, talking about the next season.
Right.
That's cool. And so New York Philharmonic, Christopher Rouse will also be involved in the programming of the Philharmonic's new Contact new music series too, which would be cool. So great to have him on board for that.
And so the season is going to include some older works by Rouse, but also a new work still in progress, I guess. Wynton Marsalis Swing Symphony.
Yep, they announced their new season this week, and it's got some new stuff on it. But about what you would normally expect. I think there are maybe 2 or 3 Chris Rouse performances, all conducted by Gilbert, which is nice.
There's 2 plus the new work that's not announced yet.
Yeah. So
now, are there
any
female composers? Because remember that was an issue last year.
It was, and it appears to still be an issue.
Yep.
Okay.
All these new composers. So I made a list, actually. I went through their whole season and found all the composers who were still alive. And it's Yorgi Kurtag, Stephen Stuckey, Chris Rouse, Tristan Murrell, and Wynton Marsalis. Those are all the living composers that they have.
And I like how you're
kind of a small selection.
Yeah.
Think of that way.
Yeah.
And and I did give them credit for 3 almost dead or only slightly dead composers, Lutoslawski, Messiaen, and Eric Leinsdorf.
Only
Slightly
dead.
dead.
So next week, spoiler alert, we're gonna talk about the lack of female composers on the scene with writer and composer for The Guardian, Carrie Andrew.
So she wrote a piece was it in The Guardian? Yeah.
It was in The Guardian.
A couple weeks ago about this. And so we'll have her on to talk about that next week. And that was all Sam's doing, so thank you, Sam.
We wanted to talk about it, but then we didn't want to be like, the round table on women's reproductive rights that had all the dudes.
Yeah.
So we decided to put hold on it and actually try and get a female composer on the show, and we did it. So
and we decided to get the author of that article on the show. So
that's
even
right.
Better.
That's good.
So,
our prestige in the new music world,
Go ahead.
Well, I was just gonna move on.
So speaking of other big movements in new music, Chris Rouse, and now there's a guy trying to sell an opera on eBay, which to me is not surprising whatsoever that composers are reaching out to that as something to try. That was surprising. Oh, lost the story. How much is it he's charging? He says he's
150,000.
It's
100. Yeah.
I mean, it's the whole opera. You're commissioning an opera basically on eBay.
Yes.
So he says that he's gonna spend like 2 or 3 years working on it, like full time.
Oh, so he hasn't written it yet then.
No, this is like a commission, I guess, that is on eBay.
I see. So does it have any bids?
Not that.
It does not.
It's probably a buy now.
Yeah, I know. Right.
Right. I mean, you wouldn't want somebody to snatch this out from under you for $150,000.03.
Right. Be bidding. Make sure you have the app
Like,
on your phone.
You gotta
so
wait
bid
there for the
very
last second and then sneak in there. $150,003.
In the quote set, I mean, in the comment section for the Sequenza 21 piece is where we found this about the eBay opera. Someone comments that actually there have been other efforts for commissioning music through eBay. Someone was doing it where they would charge $1 per measure per part, which is kind of cool.
That's funny.
So as high as it gets, that's how long the piece is. So as you outbid somebody, you're also making the piece longer.
Right.
Cool.
That's interesting.
Yeah. But so this guy who's doing the opera, does he? What has anyone checked him out as a composer in terms of his credentials?
He's got your average good-looking Vita with the kind of stuff you want to see.
Anything
Nothing.
stick out to you?
Well, I can't. I looked at it briefly this morning, and now I can't find him. I don't even remember. We can need to stop saying this guy and come up with his name.
Yeah.
Luis Andre Cobo.
Okay.
Yeah. So, but he is a software engineer and composer.
I like this
Interesting.
guy.
He is not much of a graphic designer, though, I will say.
Oh dear.
Based
on his website?
His website, but the big thing is the description of the piece in his eBay thing. Now, it's really cool the way it's done and formatted, but whew. Sorry. Hey, but we're talking about his piece and his name all over the show, so that's the trick. I get to criticize his graphic design.
Any press is good press.
So
Yeah.
he says in his bio he studied with Aaron J. Kernis, Richard Danielpour. He doesn't say where. He says he has degrees, but he doesn't say where they're from.
Interesting.
Which is shady.
Slightly sketchy.
Yeah, and when you go to the CV, like he's got resume, and you do engineering CV and music CV, they're both under construction.
Well, you know
But
what? I hope
only $150,000, you could get an opera from him.
Right. I
What
didn't
a
want
deal.
to. I didn't want to speak disparagingly of the guy, but if I have trouble finding anything that might coerce me into spending that much money on an opera from the guy, I don't. And I'm pretty good at finding things on the internet. So.
Well, if you don't have 150,000, for as little as 32,000, he'll write a half-hour-long chamber opera for 3 to 5 singers.
What a deal.
So.
Oh no,
That sounds much more reasonable.
Yeah, but isn't $150,000 for an opera a pretty good deal? Actually.
Might be.
Yeah, well, what are the God? Who came out with it? Was it some publication or Society of Composers or something that had like who makes the guidelines for commissioning? There's
You're
a
thinking of
sheet
Meet
out
the
there.
Composer.
Meet the Composer, right? They say something about opera on there.
I don't know.
Like how
sure
much
it's
do you
crazy.
expect to spend?
Yeah. But I mean, those are really rough guidelines too. So.
Yeah.
Anyway, if you don't have $150,000, another way you could support writing new music might be Kickstarter. And it's something that I have done. Sam, have you done this, or were you just like?
I still have my
brewing
approved
this
project.
thing? You still haven't done it?
Yeah, and I'm poising myself to launch it.
Okay, you've been poising for like 6 months now, I think.
Yeah. Has your piece done, Dave?
Yeah, it's going out this week, likely. It's gonna at least be printed this week.
Oh, nice.
Premiered at the North American Saxophone Alliance conference. If anybody's gonna be there in where is it? Tempe, Arizona. Because I won't be, because it's in
So
Tempe.
for all artistic ventures that have gone on Kickstarter, there's been just about $150 million projected for 2012.
Yeah. Well, I don't think this is specifying artistic ventures. I think this is just all of the money that's spent on Kickstarter, and a lot of that is going to the arts, people that are making films, people that are recording albums, commissioning new works, not just music, but commissioning artworks, books, a lot of graphic novels. In fact, I just saw this awesome thing that I missed the deadline for by just a couple of months. Somebody made a graphic novel of the life of Eric Dolphy.
Oh, wow.
I know. How awesome is that?
Cool.
I just missed it. But anyway, this report came out this week that Kickstarter is expected, as Patrick said, to fund projects by different people in the amount of what was it, $150 million?
$150 million.
Which is more than the National Endowment for the Arts will be funding in the next year. Which is very cool. Now, not everything, not everything on Kickstarter is the arts in the sense that the National Endowment would support them. A lot of them are, if we include design, maybe product design,
Like personal projects and highly commercialized, larger projects as well, are all on Kickstarter. So.
But I mean, that says, not good things about the NEA, but it says a lot of good things about individuals willing to support creative projects.
Yeah.
So is this something that Rocco Landisman is going to be like, see, I told you individual patronage is going to work better than government patronage? Remember all that hubbub he was causing?
Well, he was causing hubbub because he thought there was just too much stuff and it was all bad.
Too much art. Too much art.
There's too much art in the world. We don't need any more. I know it's my job to make more art in the world, but there's already too much.
I wonder if it has to do with the amount of money. I mean, I've given money to a bunch of friends who have projects on Kickstarter. I feel like with government money, they feel the need that it has to be such a large amount. And with individual people, I mean, yes, you need more of them, but, you can give as little as $5. And,
exactly.
The amounts of money that they need to sort of get the project going are, a lot. I mean, obviously, like hugely variable, but
Right.
I think it's really great. I mean, it's given a lot of people to, just who are have a chance just to sit at home, set up the project and be able to make it happen. I think it's really terrific.
Yeah. Well, and I think the NEA has changed a lot since its inception, in the cutting of the individual grants, and I think that's the kind of thing that Kickstarter is doing, is supporting individuals in a way that the NEA is now just supporting big groups.
Right. That's what it seems like.
It's giving lots of money to the New York Philharmonic, but it's not giving any to me.
Right.
And Kickstarter is getting me money, and in a way that the National Endowment never would without an individual grant.
Mm-hmm. Right.
Yeah, I mean, it really works, consumer to creator in the way, I don't want to be a link hog, but like the Occupy movement in the way it wants to have some more democratic engagement with what's going on. This is a real clear and easy way for someone to support stuff in the art or whatever that they want to directly,
Mm-hmm.
direct input rather than representational input.
Yeah, and it's so difficult to get those NEA grants because it feels like there's such a limited pool and everybody is competing against one another, and Kickstarter is not exclusive like that. It's much easier to support a larger number of people and spread this large pool of money in smaller amounts around so many different people, whereas at the NEA there's a few groups that are each getting a lot of money.
Right. And then bearing all the risk for whether or not that investment will pay out in some tangible way.
Right.
In this way, the risk is spread around to the point that in most cases, like in the huge majority of the cases, I would say the amount of money at stake is negligible in the grand scheme of the person's life.
Right.
So happy to hear that, actually. And the founder of Kickstarter actually said, yeah, look at this. This is awesome. And kind of challenged the NEA or the government in general to sort of match funds, if you will. This is not the answer. This is a way for us to work together, or a way for different things to work together so that creative people can get things done.
And our next story is one of Sam's pet topics. So
I thought we might skip it and go to the pick.
I think that's okay with me.
It's getting a little late.
We'll leave it with, you should check out David Smook's article called "Competitions Are for Horses" on New Music Box. So
yeah, and in that article, it actually references another article that's about how composers go about getting recognition in the field as composers, and they're kind of related. I don't like composition contests. That's the other part of the story.
So, pick of the week time?
Pick of the week!
All right. So, our pick of the week this week is a Grammy Award-winning performance by 8th Blackbird. You may have heard about it. I think, I guess, Lisa, do you want to tell us about how Lonely Motel and Stephen Mackey, how this piece came about? We talked to Chris Richardson about it when he was on the show a while back, and I think we just lost Patrick. Anyway, he told us that it was kind of an interesting story for the creation of this work.
Yeah, so we had played this other piece of Steve's called Indigenous Instrument of Steve Mackey. We had worked on that piece about the same time we met Steve, which I think was like 2003, maybe. And so he heard us play that piece, and then we were at a summer festival with him for a couple of weeks. And, we said, oh, you should write something new for us. We'd love to do something. And Steve himself is a great guitar player. And so we thought, well, maybe you should write yourself into the piece and we can do a piece together because it'd be so much fun to play with you. And then he said, well, I have an idea. What if we also included Rindy Eckert, who Steve has known for a long time and worked with on a bunch of other projects as well. And so that was sort of how the idea came about, to do kind of a big, music theater kind of piece that would be an evening length long work. So the process of working on the piece was really, it took a long time to actually get the funding, but everybody was sort of on board. So, over the course of about 4 years, Steve and Rindy started work on the project. We had them come out to Chicago and recorded, a few of the songs, just in terms of making a demo, so funding for it. And finally, we premiered the piece in 2009 as a concert work. And because of the nature of the piece, which is really, I think it's about 11 or 12 songs, we just thought it would make a great album. And a lot of the songs, are just great tunes, really, really fantastic. And so we recorded the album I think we recorded the album in 2011 in the spring. And it was great fun. I think it's a really unique piece of music. Steve draws on a lot of different influences from Dowland to the Beatles, basically, and it's beautiful. I like the sound choices that he makes and the way that he orchestrates. The sort of rhythmic, just the way that he uses rhythm in unique ways, where it sounds like there are people just playing in 4 different tempi at one time. It's really, really cool. So yeah, I love the CD. I think the music is great.
Cool.
When Chris was on the show before, the general, the way he described the process of this eventually becoming a piece, that it was, you know,
Kind of a
fraught with
struggle.
fraught with trials and tribulations the whole time. And like, obviously, since it just took so long from the beginning until it was finally recorded, it seems like, you know, at least that has to be true to some degree. So seeing how much trouble it was along the way getting it done and getting the funding, did you find yourself a little bit in disbelief holding a Grammy for this piece? That, like, after all of this, you probably didn't expect to be holding a Grammy in your hand for this piece, you know, 5 years ago.
Right. Yeah. No, did not expect that. Was just glad that we were able to ever perform it. So, yeah, I mean, definitely one of the biggest trials and tribulations was just finding the funding. But the other is sort of interesting. You know, I think theater people, which is really the world that Rindy lives in, theater people and music people work like very differently together. Where, you know, I think at least in Eighth Blackbird, and I think this is typical of music groups, we were really, you know, we're keen on rehearsing, coming together for a workshop period, and like working for 8 or 9 hours a day with everybody and getting stuff done, and being as efficient as possible in that process. Whereas theater people, I feel like they garner a lot of the ideas that they need to, you know, work during the process. So for them, it's more about the process as opposed to like, how efficient can we make this process? You know, so Steve had worked with Rindy a lot on his own, but we were working with Rindy for the first time, and he's very process oriented, and you know, a lot of us are impatient with that kind of working. So I mean, I would say that was the other sort of trial and tribulation about just working on the piece, was the two very different processes that were sort of involved. And I think there's not a lot of ways around that. I don't think Rindy is atypical in how he works. But it was definitely, for us, sometimes very trying, just patience-wise.
Right.
Right.
'Cause you guys are probably, you know, very perfectionists, and you want to, you know, get the thing right and then play it a bunch of times, and he's probably more of iterative process.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah,
Well,
no, exactly.
For musicians, especially if you're trained in school in the Western art music tradition, like the first thing is get everything, all the notes perfect. And then,
Right.
you know, that's like the baseline.
Right.
And that's not process. That's
No.
just...
Right, exactly.
So,
Yeah,
The
you
a common
understand.
topic for Dave and I that we've harped on over the years is the differences and the similarities between theater and music can be frustrating, because in some ways they're very similar, in some ways they're completely different, and in a way that a lot of people try to pretend isn't true when it is.
Right. And you know, sort of theater people don't mind that you sort of do a performance of a work, and then, you know, it continues to change until it reaches its final version. You know, that's not at all what we do. We're about perfecting the process, like, and then, you know, okay, this is the premiere of what it's going to be, and 10 performances down the road, it's going to be better because it'll be the 10th time that we did it, but it's still going to be the same, you know, basic thing. And yeah, theater's just not like that. I mean, the other problem was that, you know, Rindy obviously, you know, sings and acts in the piece with us, but he also at first decided that he was going to direct it, and you can't have that. So we quickly realized that, and hired a director, and that made the process go a lot more smoothly as well. So.
All right, so let's take a listen. Actually, when Chris was on the show, we listened to a different couple of tracks. So I think this time we'll listen to Processional. Is there anything you want to tell us to maybe set this up, or should we just play it right off?
Really, we're gonna listen to Processional? Okay.
Why is that a surprise?
I don't know. I would choose something else, but that's fine.
Well, we listened to I think, I don't remember, what did we listen to last time? We listened to a little bit of the beginning and some maybe Slide of Dog.
Yeah, that's a good one. I would listen to Stare, but you know, the Processional is fine. You'll hear us singing in Processional.
we can't listen to the whole thing. We'll just listen to an excerpt of it. But do you want to tell us anything about it?
Yeah. So this is this just comes towards the end of the show, actually, and everyone you'll hear singing is us. And Rindy's not singing. There's no guitar on this one either, and we're sort of, the whole, without getting too much into it, the premise of the concert version has to do with this psychologist who's running these experiments about how people view and perceive different things. So in this song, sort of talking about perception.
Okay. So this is a little excerpt from Lonely Motel, a Grammy Award-winning album by 8th Blackbird. This track is Processional. All right, that was an excerpt from Lonely Motel. Sam is giving the rock horns for that one.
Just the part when everybody starts singing and you fill in the in-between parts to make it have a little groove. When that starts, that's just perfect.
Yeah, it's cool. It's cool.
Yeah. So
I think it's cool that you're singing, that the group is singing. I don't. You seemed like almost embarrassed by it when we brought it up.
I just think it's funny. Well, I just think it's funny you chose the track where we happen to all be singing as opposed to Rindy.
We tried to pick a little bit deeper cut this time since we were.
That's right.
This is a kind of a second time around for
That's
this
all right.
piece.
we played the hit single the first time.
Okay. Hey.
This was the C side.
Yes. Right.
It's the other side of the B side.
What is that just piano doing those
No,
bell
there's some
toll?
percussion in there, right?
Yes. What's going on in there?
Yeah, there's just chime.
Okay.
So there's the chime and the piano together really sound cool.
Yeah,
there.
it's a really interesting combination of those timbres.
Yeah, no, it's really nice.
And
It sounds like a malfunctioning piano, is what it
I
sounds
know,
like to me.
and I'm sure that's exactly what Steve intended. He's a huge part of the mixing process when they did this, and it was it was great to have him do the mixing because he obviously got it to sound the way it sounded in his head, I think.
Yeah.
So,
The combination of the attacks is really interesting, and then
Right.
the chime kind of changes as it sustains its timbre, and the piano doesn't change as much.
right.
Is a really cool thing.
Right, and we were isolated, so that we weren't even in the same room when we
Yeah.
recorded that. Yeah, because I remember it was hard to see him, and so cueing was difficult.
Right.
Well, it's a very cool piece, and I hope you're not too embarrassed by your singing on it. I think it's great.
okay.
Had you guys sung? Had the members of the ensemble sung up to that point, or is that the first time it happens?
No, I mean we're fine with doing that kind of thing in performance. I think when you think about recording it, I mean, none of us had ever recorded singing before, and it just feels all that more serious because you just feel like, oh my God, okay, I have to be in tune. Okay, I don't really know how to control my breath. What am I doing? Why are we singing?
Well, I mean, in the piece itself, is that the first time the ensemble sings?
I don't think it was. No.
Okay.
But it might have been the first time we sang as much as we did.
Yeah, just from a theatrical standpoint, like the fact that everybody starts singing right there all of a sudden seems like it would have a lot of impact.
Oh no, for sure. It's very weird, I think, in the show when it happens. Yeah.
In a good way.
Yeah, in a good way. Right.
Yeah, I mean, the theatricality of this piece is really compelling. I would love to. Do you guys still perform this a lot?
What we're talking to Steve about right now is actually making kind of a reduced version that we sort of in like a, without a full staging, but more like a cabaret version.
Yeah.
Because we really do like the songs and we would like to do it more. And honestly, it's often just a financial question of mounting it. So we'll see what happens with this sort of reduced version that we're aiming for.
Is there any video of you guys performing this?
Yeah, there is. I'm not sure. I think Chris has those videos. But yes, there is some video. I don't know if there's anything on YouTube or not.
I think so. Again, this is a very theatrical piece, obviously, and it'd be really cool to see. Maybe even a DVD of the whole thing sometime. But
I agree.
It's such an interesting piece to listen to and kind of read descriptions of what is going on. But it's obviously not the same as seeing it.
Right. No, absolutely, it's not.
My first search on YouTube, typing 8BB Lonely Motel yielded Only the Lonely by the Motels. If you remember that one.
Oh,
from the 80s.
Excellent.
You gotta work on your SEO.
There we go.
Oh, that's funny.
Well,
No,
go ahead.
No, I don't think it exists on YouTube.
All right. Well, I think we should
Thirsty.
probably wrap it up for this week. Patrick has left us entirely. Something has gone terribly wrong in Patrick's apartment. I'm sure it was. I don't know. I was gonna go somewhere with that, but I'll leave it out. Thank you so much for joining us, Lisa. It's been really great talking to you.
Yeah, my pleasure. Thanks for having me, you guys.
Yeah, thanks for talking to us, and we really appreciate your insight on the Golijov situation. Not to spend any more mental time on that, but it was really nice to have somebody that actually knew him. That was a coincidence. We didn't actually know that you'd worked with those two guys so closely.
Yeah, great. No worries.
That was great. So anyway, thank you to everyone in our audience who joined us as well. That's going to do it for this week's SoundNotion. To read more about any of the stories that we've talked about or to comment on the show, you can head over to our website, soundnotion.tv/SN, and leave us a note there. You can also connect with us on Facebook or Twitter. We're at SoundNotion on Twitter. This show and all our shows are available in the iTunes store, so be sure to go there and subscribe to catch every episode for free. We also record this show live every week and stream it on the web as we're going at 11 a.m.-ish Eastern Time. You can find that live stream at soundnotion.tv/live. And if you have any comments, you can, of course, share those in the chat room, which I don't think we had anybody watching live today, but that's cool. SoundNotion's introduction includes music by Patrick Gulo and video by Tyler Lepp. Thanks again for watching, and we'll see you back next week.
What you